Good afternoon. Welcome everybody to today's webinar. On today's webinar, we'll be going through standards 3.5, 3.6, 5.3 and 5.4. Hope you're having a good month so far and glad to see the warmer weather coming back finally. Okay. So in today's webinar, we'll be looking at those standards, and this webinar forms part of your continuous improvement process under standard 2.2. Following this webinar, you should hold a monthly quality and compliance meeting and include in your minutes for that meeting that you attended this webinar, and also what you have learned during this webinar and any improvements that you need to make or perhaps implement into your organisation. As per the policies and procedures for continuous improvement, you should undertake a review of the policy and procedure as well as the documentation that we're going to be looking at today, and just check that if you're not doing what our policy and procedure says, is it because you need to implement something so that you are doing that, or is it that you need to update your policies and procedures? Okay, so today's standards, 3.5, we're going to start with is credit transfer. So credit transfer may seem like it's a pretty straightforward system that you need to have, but we often find that people don't understand. One thing in particular is how to certify documents. So I'm going to be looking at a bit about the certified documents and how you should prepare for a credit transfer and what are the students' rights. So the rights are within the standards that an RTO must offer credit transfer and recognise qualifications from other nationally recognised organisations. When you do a credit transfer, you need to authenticate the event transcripts issued by the registrar. So you need to ensure that the certificates that you are citing are a true and correct copy of the original document. So when we go look at a credit transfer, we have this policy in the student handbook and the trainer's handbook, which outlines to the student that they are eligible to apply for a credit transfer, being their right and responsibility, plus provides them the process for applying for the credit transfer. The student, in order to apply for a credit transfer, they complete a credit transfer form. And here's a little snippet. We're actually going to be having a look at it in a bit more detail soon. So they complete the credit transfer form with an authenticated or a certificate that has been cited, the original has been cited, or you have a copy that has been certified by a JP. So with the credit transfer policy, it's also on the back of the enrolment form, but it's in the student handbook as well. So this is the credit transfer form. So the student needs to complete this, or someone within the RTO can complete the credit transfer form on behalf of the student. So we have their first name, surname, what course, what qualification is it they need, what course is it that they're applying for credit transfer, and today's date. And then you attach on here what units the student wishes to apply for credit transfer. This week I had actually a question about this with regards to, do you have to give a credit transfer if it's for a unit that you haven't advertised or marketed as part of your qualification? No, you don't have to. It's up to you. You can do the credit transfer based on what you have marketed for your course. If it is a core within the course, then fine. It's going to be one that you've marketed, so you can do a credit transfer for that. If it's an elective that it can be taken from the training package to be part of the full qual, yes, you can. You could recognise the credit transfer, but if you have a valid reason why the student may need to do the electives that you have chosen, maybe because there's prerequisites and prerequisites, you could ask them that it can be a requirement that they complete the units as you have advertised. But it is the student's right ultimately that they can apply for credit transfer as long as it fits within the packaging rules of the qualification in which they are enrolling within your organisation. So the credit transfer could be a situation where the student may have commenced a course somewhere else, or they got a couple of units from another RTO, and now they want to do a credit transfer of those units as part of another qualification that you are offering within your RTO. So, for example, they could have done a first aid course and they want to apply for a credit transfer for the first aid unit as part of the childcare qualification or the aged care qualification. Some RTOs do this as a standard procedure where they will cite a certificate, so they don't actually deliver a first aid unit, but they require the student to do the first aid unit at another RTO. So that would be a case where you could do a credit transfer and you could fill in one of these credit transfer forms to verify that the student has got is eligible for a credit transfer. So you put the units in here and then you state whether they're eligible or not. You need to cite the original of the certificate, or you get a certified copy from a JP of the original certificate. So when you authenticate a certificate and you are undertaking a credit transfer, or it might be for any other purpose, like you might be authenticating certificates that you've received from your trainer assessor as part of your trainer assessor files. This is not part of credit transfer, but when you authenticate it, you need to either cite the original or have a certified copy by a JP. So if you cite the original, then you should have a stamp that says that you certified that this is a true and correct copy of the original. So this is the credit transfer form. So you should get either the student to complete it or you complete it. And it has a checklist of documents that you need to do on that form. So I'm just going to switch to my screen so that we can go through the form in a bit more detail. Okay, so you should be able to see the form now. So we have the credit transfer form. The student can complete this first section, which is their first name, surname, the course that they are wishing to apply for a credit transfer, and the date. Then as an RTO, you should put the units that they're wishing to transfer. And then on the transcript, you should highlight the relevant units that they wish to apply for credit transfer. It says us to complete this. The transcript has been checked. Units are current or equivalent, and student is eligible for a credit transfer as per the list of the units above. Transcript has been checked and student is eligible for a credit transfer for some of the units and not all, and there's an explanation below. Transcript has been checked and the student is not eligible for a credit transfer, an explanation of the reasons below. So credit transfer is where it's a direct equivalent unit of competency. You can't do a credit transfer for superseded or old units that are no longer a direct equivalent. So it should either be directly the same, exactly the same unit, or it might be a unit, but it's just basically the code has changed and it is a direct equivalent. On training.gov.au, it is a direct equivalent. So that's where they would be eligible and not eligible. So it could be that they have a transcript where there are other units that they're not eligible, or it's not part of the qualification where you can offer the credit transfer. So if they're not eligible, you should complete this form here and state why they're not eligible. You have a bit of space there. And then there's a checklist following, stating what you've done. So the units of competency are equivalent. Eligible units have been entered into the database as credit transfer. Student has been notified in writing as the outcome of the credit transfer, and trainer has been notified in writing that the student has received a credit for eligible units, and then that should be signed off, and a record of that should go onto the student's database, into the database for the student. Okay, so that one is for the credit transfer. Okay, just go back to the PowerPoint. And that's the credit transfer form. Now, at any time, if you have any questions, please pop them into the chat section on the left-hand side there. This is what a certified copy looks like. So I'm just showing you what a certified copy of a certificate should look like. This is just an example. It's not a real one. What I recommend to all of our RTOs is get a stamp that says certified true copy of an original document, or I certify that this is a true and correct copy of the original. And anyone within the RTO can sign this certified copy. They don't have to be a JP. It's anybody who is an employee of the RTO can sign the certified copy. If you cannot cite the original of the certificate, you need to get a certified copy by a JP. So that's for credit transfer, but it's also for where you may be citing the original of a certificate for trainers and assessors, where you're setting up the trainer assessor file. I just thought I'd go into certified copy as part of that. Now, these stamps you can just buy from Officeworks, or you can buy them online. So there's stamps there available for you to use. If you have a JP on your site, you might as well use the JP for certifying the true and correct copies as well, because then that way they can use that certified copy without having someone to sign it within the RTO. So if you had a student who was wishing for a credit transfer, you would highlight on the certificate there which unit that they wish to apply for a credit transfer. Now, you should also verify that the certificate is real. So you should go onto training.gov.au and actually check with the RTO. And you can also ring the RTO to certify that it's a true and correct copy. You can also go onto usi.gov.au to certify copies. We still haven't got, USI hasn't got all the certificates on there yet, but if they completed it within the last 2 years, it should be on usi.gov.au. Okay, this is, just thought while I'm talking about certified copies, I thought I'd talk about, other ways of certifying copies of documents. So whenever you take a photocopy of any ID from a student, you should certify that this is a true and correct copy when you put it on your student's file. You should never just leave a copy of an ID on a file without it being certified as true and correct. Now, that can be certified as true and correct from someone within the RTO using that stamp that we showed earlier, that this is a certified true and correct copy of the original, or you could have a JP sign it. So this one's got an example of a police officer has signed that this is a certified true and correct copy. We've got Mr. Bean down here. Mr. Bean has a passport that has been certified as a true and correct copy. This is an example of an education agent that has used this stamp for a certified true and correct copy. So you could do this within your own RTO and make sure that you have a place for you to sign and date it as well. But all copies of ID that you take a photocopy of and maintain on a file, you should ensure that you have a certified true and correct copy of that ID, and that is what makes it authenticated as per the standard. So authenticated means that you have certified that it's a true and correct copy. You've authenticated that it is a real document. So that's where it is within the standards that it's an authenticated true and correct copy is when you sign the document that you certify it's a true and correct copy. Okay, now USI, I went onto the USI website today, and then you can actually get a transcript from the USI website now. On the transcript, they actually have information about what's been entered into usi.gov.au. So the front page of the transcript includes the collection period, the student's name, the qualifications completed, who the RTO is, the units that they completed, and if there was a funding source, so keep a record of that, the outcomes, if it was a credit transfer or if it was an RPO or competent, and then the enrolment period will be in there as well. This is all collected when you submit your EVETMIS data to usi.gov.au, and that's where all your records are going in there. I got this information from usi.gov.au, and thought what I would do, I'm going to send you a link to more information from from usi.gov.au. Highly recommend that you get onto the USI website. There's lots of handy information on there that you can use that will assist you with understanding USI better. If you're a new Kickstart client of ours and you are not an RTO yet, you won't be able to register on USI until you have your RTO ID. But as soon as you do get your RTO ID, you need to go on to usi.gov.au and register your organisation under USI. And there's all sorts of information on the usi.gov.au website on how to register as an RTO. The link I've sent you is for training organisations. So there's all sorts of information on there, including how to verify student records, transcripts and certificates. So we're just going to go on to the next page. This is the back page of the USI transcript example that you could use, that students can get access to, but you can also verify that a student actually holds a unit by going onto usi.gov.au to check that they have. So you get them to complete that credit transfer form, and then you would verify it through usi.gov.au. If it's not on usi.gov.au yet, you should then get in contact with the RTO and verify the certificate directly with the RTO. And this is all within our policies and procedures, and it's also within our form. So that's credit transfer and verifying student records when you're doing a credit transfer. This rolls on nicely with standard 3.6, which is all about the USI. So RTOs are required to verify with the register a student identifier and ensure that all students have a USI before you issue a certificate. So it's the RTO's responsibility to ensure that you have the USI, and you should have an EVETMIS compliant database that can verify the USI number. If you don't have a database that can verify for you, there's some excellent databases out there where you just enter the USI and it's linked to usi.gov.au and it will verify it for you. If it is not linked to usi.gov.au, then your database, that is, you can then go on to usi.gov.au and log in and verify records directly on usi.gov.au. Some RTOs can apply for exemption from USI, and it's normally the only organisations that can apply. Actually, I will be talking more about exemptions and what those exemptions are. Okay, so the policy and procedure is in the student handbook, and also in the student handbook is instructions to the student on how to apply for a USI. There's also some very handy videos on usi.gov.au that you can put on your website, or you could email to your students that explains how they can register for a USI number. So the enrolment agreement form also includes a disclaimer on the form about how you will be collecting the USI to verify the student number against the usi.gov.au website to verify that they have enrolled into a course and that you have their USI. If you are going to be collecting a USI from a student, you need to ensure that you provide the student with a USI privacy notice. If you're going to assist the student to obtain the USI, that you need to give them a USI privacy notice. You can apply for USI on behalf of the student, and particularly if they're students that have never had a qualification before and never gone through the process for USI, you can do that on the student's behalf. Most students have a USI now, but there will be occasions where you will still get students who do not hold a USI number. So to register on USI, as an RTO, collecting and reporting your students' USI numbers is a requirement under the Commonwealth legislation and a condition of your registration as an RTO. This applies to new students, pre-enrolled students, continuing students, school students completing nationally recognised qualifications. Before you can issue a qualification or a statement of attainment to a student, you must either collect and verify the student's existing USI or create a USI on behalf of the student with their permission. For either of these actions, you will need to have access to the USI registry system. For more information, you can go to that link that I sent you, which is usi.gov.au training-organisations. And you'll find lots of helpful information for your RTO on that link. We have a range of forms that we have included with your documentation on Unicorn that you can access. including fact sheets about how the RTO can access the USI website, how the student can access USI and set up a USI number for themselves. And there's also a fact sheet on what is their responsibilities and what is USI. We also have a poster in there on USI. There's a range of USI posters that you can use that will assist you with promoting USI and how to get the USI. So you'll see, I'm just about to share my screen, and I have on my screen here what the USI poster is. So this one you could just get. I got this poster from usi.gov.au. I've also got in here a certificate template, just backtracking a bit. This is one that is being certified as a true and correct copy. This is just an example, so hasn't been completed fully. But this is where someone had commenced, as an example, a Certificate 3 in business, but they only got 3 units out of the Certificate 3 in business. You could do a credit transfer for these units if they're direct equivalent units that you have offered on your qualifications that a student may want to transfer into. This is our enrolment agreement form. You'll see on our enrolment agreement form, we have the USI number on there, so the student can put their USI on there. And there's also permission on here. I give permission for example RTO to access my USI for the purpose of recording my results. If I do not have a USI in place, I'm willing for the RTO to set up my USI on my behalf. We also have a disclaimer on the back page about USI. So we have some information about the USI. Just try and find it. Fee protection. Here it is. Here. I've read and understood the terms and conditions of my enrolment, and I acknowledge and agree with the terms and conditions of enrolment with this specific reference to the RTO's enrolment and selection, USI, course fees, blah, blah, blah. So by signing this document, I also give permission for the RTO to access my USI for the purpose of my training. So we've actually got a disclaimer on there about USI and that you will be collecting it for the student on their behalf. Okay. All right, we'll go back to the slides. Okay, no questions about the USI? I'm hoping everybody who is an RTO has already registered for a USI. For those who are in our Kickstart package, once you get your RTO ID, you'll need to go onto usi.gov.au and register your RTO on USI. So to get an exemption from USI, an RTO may be exempt from issuing USI or recording results within the USI database if they meet the selection criteria. So the selection criteria is, and it's within our policies and procedures in the Q&C manual when you have a look in there, anybody who, so any organisation where issuing a USI may increase the risk of the security of Australia, they're not required to issue USIs. For example, New South Wales Police, the Armed Services or the Federal Police. So they're exempt from USI due to security measures to protect Australian citizens. You can also apply for an exemption for USI if you believe that there is any reason why your students need to be protected from, and you have to apply and then get approved. It's not an easy process, so it's got to be authenticated. Also, you can apply for USI exemption if you're doing just short courses. So if you're doing first aid, or short courses like that. But you need to apply with usi.gov.au to get an exemption. Student details. So if you are exempt, student details will not be recorded on the USI database or on a VETMIS. This means that your assessment results will not appear on their authenticated VET transcript or be available via the USI system. Learners are required to sign a declaration to acknowledge this during the enrolment process. So if you do have exemption, you need to notify your students that you do have exemption and that they will not have access to their records on usi.gov.au. So it's a really good idea. to make sure that you go to that usi.gov website and understand your rights and responsibilities as an RTO, and with regards to ensuring that your students have a USI number before you issue them a certificate. A student may be exempt from applying for a USI or recording results within the USI database if they work within an industry that could affect the security of the nation. So, as I said, New South Wales Police and Federal Police. In addition, individuals who have a genuine personal objection to being assigned a student identifier will be able to apply for an exemption to the Student Identifiers Registrar. And that is up to you to direct the student to usi.gov.au and to the exemption registrar. If the student is exempt from USI, student details will not be recorded on the USI database or on a VETMIS. This means that your VETMIS results will not be on the usi.gov.au, and you'll need to ensure that your learner, whoever, if they want to be exempt or you are exempt, signs a stat deck that they acknowledge this during the enrolment process. Okay, any questions about USI? If you have any questions about USI, post them in there. Okay, so now we're moving on to course fees, payments and refunds. So standard 5.3. So where the RTO collects fees from the individual learner, either directly or through a third party, the RTO provides or directs the learner to information prior to enrolment or the commencement of the training and assessment, whichever comes first. All the relevant fee information must be clear and transparent upfront prior to course commencement. There should not be any surprises when it comes to fees. You cannot have on your marketing material fees and then later on down the track you put on additional fees. All your fees need to be clear and transparent upfront. That includes if you are doing certificate reissues. What is the fee for your certificate reissues? So in our policies and procedures, we have certificate reissue at $80 for a certificate reissue for the admin process for undertaking a certificate reissue. If you are going to have a fee for any reassessment, for example, you might be delivering training in forklift driving, where a reassessment is going to cost you money if the student is required to undergo another assessment. So it is your right, if you want to charge a fee for reassessment, for any reassessment, it can be a document-based one as well. It doesn't have to be equipment-based. You are allowed to charge a fee. But if you will be charging a fee, you need to make it clear and transparent on your marketing material prior to course commencement. So, for example, if you were doing forklift driving as a course and for a reassessment fee, you are going to charge a fee, so $150, for example, for reassessment. As long as you have it clear and transparent on your marketing material that there will be a reassessment fee, you can charge a reassessment fee, but make sure it's clear and transparent. If you require your students to buy additional textbooks or any other additional resources, you need to ensure that it's clear and transparent on the marketing material prior to course commencement. What are those fees? So, for example, it could be that the student will be required to undertake a police record check or a working with children check. If there's any fees associated with that, you need to make it clear and transparent on your marketing material prior to course commencement that what the fees are involved with getting those documentation. Or it could be that you have a certificate that has a license outcome where the student will be required to attain a license. For example, might be heavy vehicle license, where you issue them with a certificate and then they need to go purchase their license from the traffic authority, Roads and Traffic Authority. You don't have to have the exact fee, but you need to have on your marketing what that fee is and a link to where they can find more information about the fees for licensing. That's just some examples of other fee information that you need to provide to the student prior to course commencement. So part B of 5.3 is the learner's right as a consumer to have a statutory cooling off period. This will depend on your location, what state you're in, what that statutory cooling off period. The national standard is 10 business days. The learner's right to obtain a refund for services not provided by the RTO in the event that the arrangement is terminated or the RTO fails to provide the agreed services. So we have the policy and procedure on the enrolment form, the student handbook, and you also need to make sure that you have it clearly outlined on your course flyer what are all your fees prior to course commencement. The cooling off period, as I stated earlier, the statutory federal level is 10 business days that you must provide a student for a cooling off period. Check your local state requirements, what your cooling off periods are within your state. Now, in our policy and procedure, we have the 10 business days as your cooling off period, but we also have in the policy and procedure, unless the student has commenced the course. Once they have commenced the course, the cooling off period is null and void. You do not need to continue a cooling off period once the student has commenced the course. So that's a get out of jail free card that we have within the policies and procedures to protect you so that you're not losing any fees once the student has commenced the course. Payment plans. If your course fees are over $1,500, you will need to have a payment plan in place, which does not include payments of more than $1,500 installments on each installment. So for example, if you had a $7,000 course, you would have a $1,500 deposit. You could have a $1,500 deposit, and then each payment following course commencement would be no more than $1,500. The best way to do it is to divide up the payments throughout the course. And what I always do is have the course fees divided up. So once they've completed 80% of the course, the fees are all paid in full. So you could have your $1,500 deposit that's paid prior to course commencement, and then your payment plan following course commencement could be $600 a week, could be $500 a month. Whatever you want to make the payment plan, that's how you would put it together. And you need to make sure that it's clear on your marketing what is your payment plan structure. So whenever you have a payment plan, you need to do that. Now, if you do not, the only way you can be exempt from this clause with your payment plans is if you, and this is in another standard, but I'll explain this here as well, is if you had tuition assurance scheme. So you might have a tuition assurance protection scheme, so where you pay like an insurance policy to protect fees that are paid upfront. Or you have a bank guarantee with your bank, and you've had these approved with ASQA. So anywhere where you have any other payment threshold, you need to have that approved by ASQA. So course fees, payments and refunds. In our policy and procedure, we outline in student information. We have a refund request form as well that I'm going to be showing you. All fees must be clear and transparent. There cannot be any surprises. Need to ensure that the course flyer complies with all the course fees that must be paid. Okay, I'm just going to share with you now. We're just going to have a look at a refund request. We've got a refund request form that your students can complete. So if they wish to apply for a refund, they can complete this form. And that's how they apply through your RTO, is through completing this refund request form. So the student puts in their details, they sign the form, put in their address, what's the course code that they're wishing to apply for a refund for, what's the reason for the request, the amount to be refunded, the original receipt or an invoice, when it's approved by accounts, how are you going to reimburse them? So you're going to pay by check, credit card, debit card, FPOS or direct deposit, and then insert here the date that it was paid and the date was issued. Need to ensure that the refund is entered into your account system, and there's also a record of it on the student file. And that's basically all the information you need in order to be able to process a refund for the student. Now, we've created that form for you to make it easier. It's also in our policies and procedures in the student handbook. So if the student wants to apply for a refund, that's the form that they will be referred to. Okay, Oh yes, we've already talked a little bit about fee protection. So there's you cannot take more than $1,500 prior to course commencement. More information can be found under Standard 7.3 in the Q&C manual with regards to the payment threshold. Consumer guarantee. This is in line with the fair trading requirements, in line with 5.3b requirements with the learner's rights as a consumer. So you need to ensure that you have a guarantee. So our policy and procedure in the manual is under the fair trading requirements. So basically what we've said under the fair trading is that the consumer, the RTO guarantees that the services provided by the RTO will be provided with due care. And I've actually got this on the back of the enrolment form as well. So I'll just show you that now. So you'll see up here, so consumer guarantee is here. So the consumer guarantee is example RTO, so this one here, guarantees that the RTO will provide the training with due care. It's fit for any specified purpose and provided within a reasonable time frame when no time frame has been set for the training. So when you go into the student handbook, there's actually more information about the consumer guarantee there and how and what are the students' rights with that. So you should have a look in the student handbook. We've also got in here the student's right to a cooling off period. So we have that the RTO protects the rights of the learner, including but limited to the statutory requirements for a cooling off period. Students are eligible to cancel their enrolment by placing a formal notice of cancellation in writing to the RTO manager. A letter or email is acceptable within 10 business days of enrolment, unless the student has already commenced the training. And please refer to the refund policy and procedure within the student handbook for further details. So we have it in there in the student handbook. What are your rights as a RTO for protecting the student with the consumer guarantee and also the cooling off period? The consequences listed if the guarantee is not met refers to the student to the complaints and appeals process. So if they don't agree with the consumer guarantee or the cooling off period, they can submit a complaint to the RTO. Now we're up to the last clause. So the last clause is clause 5.4, which is changes to agreed services. I'm still seeing a lot of RTOs that are non-compliant with this clause. Our clients are not, because it's within our policies and procedures manual, but I'm still seeing it when I go out to audit that RTOs are not sufficiently putting information in their student handbook about what will happen if there's any changes to agreed services and the student's right to that. So including in relation to any new third-party arrangements or a change of ownership or changes to existing third-party arrangements. So we have the policy and procedure on the student handbook, and we also have it on the back of the enrolment form. Our changes to agreed services policy and procedure is within a form. So we actually have a flow chart with 4 different types of changes to agreed services that may possibly happen within your RTO. So you may have a third party delivering a unit on your behalf within your RTO, or you might have a third party who is offering training rooms that you are using, or a third party that's involved with the delivery of a training and assessment. So if you have any changes to the third party arrangements, we have in our policy and procedure that you'll ensure that their new agreement has been drafted and signed by the new third party. ASQA is notified of any third party agreements through ASQAnet, and students are notified in writing of the new third party arrangement, including any conditions and contact details of the new third party. So when you need to notify ASQA of any third parties, is any third parties delivering training and assessment on your behalf? You need to go to ASQAnet and log into ASQAnet and notify them of any changes if someone is delivering training and assessment on your behalf. Change of location. So we have a process there if your location changes. So you must have on your marketing material the location of where you will be delivering the training. So this is the information you're providing to the student prior to course commencement. It must be clear to the student prior to course commencement where the location of the training is, including if there is a different place where they will be doing their practical component compared to where they will be doing the theory component of their training and assessment. It needs to be clear and transparent to the students so that they understand where the location is for this training so that they know how to get to that training, and they have the modes of transport to get themselves to both, so whatever location you require the student to go in order to complete the training, the qualification. So we have a process there if you have a change of venue, because sometimes these things happen. For example, there could have been an accident at the building and it's now not accessible and you're no longer able to use it for a training facility. You basically need to notify the student in writing of that change of venue. If you have a permanent delivery site where you need to change the permanent delivery site, you need to notify ASQA in writing of that permanent delivery site. So if you change your head office location or the location as per listed on training.gov.au, you need to notify ASQA through a material change of event of that change of location, and also notify the students and update all your marketing material. If you have a change of trainer, so it may be that the course is already commenced, the trainer falls sick or something's happened with the trainer and you need to get a new trainer, you need to have a method for notifying your students of the new trainer, which includes an introduction. So you could do an email or you could do a letter that is sent out to the student that introduces the new trainer to them, and also you introducing the trainer to the class and what's the class size going to be, the location of the training and things like that. So that all should be in writing to both the student and to the trainer assessor. Finally is if there's a change of ownership. So if you have sold your RTO or if you've recently purchased an RTO, you need to ensure that there is, following the finalisation of the sale of shares, you need to complete an ASQA form, notification of material change of event, through ASQAnet and submit that to ASQAnet within 90 calendar days of that change of ownership. You need to also ensure that all your certificates are changed to the new CEO, and that you notify all the students in writing of the change of ownership. So there's our policies and procedures for changes of ownership. And that's it for today. I haven't had any questions, so I hopefully was nice and clear and everybody understands what I was going through today. If you have any questions following this webinar about any of the clauses that we reviewed today, please do not hesitate to get in contact with your client liaison officer who can provide you with further information. You can also, I highly recommend you go check out usi.gov.au for more information about setting up a USI, or also how to get access to how to verify certificates on USI. Next month, our webinar has been moved to the 9th of October, Monday the 9th of October, because Monday the 2nd of October is a public holiday. And I'm not coming in on the public holiday, and I'm sure you wouldn't want to either. So it's a Labor Day weekend here in New South Wales. So the next webinar will be on Monday, the 9th of October at 3 p.m. At the next webinar, we'll be talking about marketing information and all that information that you provide to your students prior to course commencement. So thank you very much for attending today. I look forward to catching up with you next month. And I'm getting lots of thank you messages. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Have a great month. I look forward to catching up with you next month, and enjoy. Oh, also one more thing. I'm going to the VELB conference next week. So if anybody's going to the VELB conference, I'd love to catch up with you there. I'll be there for the whole 2 days. Yeah, if you're going, yeah, track me down and catch up with me, or let me know. Just let me know if you're going, and we'll try and catch up while we're there. So the VELB conference is being held in Sydney next Thursday, Friday of next week. Okay, bye everybody. Catch you later. Have a good month.